Welcome to the Report Connection with Tommy. This video is on your Raw results and WWE main event spoilers for this week, November, 12, December the 3rd, 2018. Happy birthdays from November 30th. Jushin Thunder Liger, real name of Kaiichi Yamada, turned 54. Christian turned 45. Naomi turned 31. The late Tom Zeke was born November 30th. 1958, died on December 9th, 2017, from arterial sclerosis and cardiomyopathy. The late Jimmy Del Ray, real name of David Ferrier, was born November 30th, 1962, died of a heart attack at the age of 52 on December 6th, 2014. No birthdays on the 1st or 2nd, but we got December 3rd birthdays. NXT UK superstar Wolfgang turned 32, while former World Heavyweight Champion Jack Swagger turned 36, and ECW original Super Crazy turned 45. Ring of Honor has signed Silas Young to a 3-year deal, and also signed PCO, formerly WWE star Carl Owlett, to an elite exclusive deal. Both signings were first reported by Mike Johnson of PW Insider. Meanwhile, our Ring of Honor has signed Brody King, according to Sean Radican of PWTorch.com. Young and PCO both confirmed that their signings. It's good to see Ring of Honor being aggressive in their efforts to boost up their roster with the potential losses of Cody, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, all three members of the SCU team, as most of them probably headed to WWE NXT or 205 Live. It wasn't long ago a photo service of Zelina Vega and Aleister Black, leading people to speculate that they were dating. It appears that there was merit to the rumors, especially from Wrestling Inc. It was reporting that the WWE talents was informed that Vega and Black recently got married. No additional details were given, but it appears that Vega and Black have taken a significant life step together. Ring of Honor. Back to Ring of Honor news. They signed Silas Young to a 3-year deal. And WWE has announced that an annual Tribute to the Truth special will be held December 4th from Fort Hood, Texas. WWE previously held the event at Fort Hood in 2010. And you can read more about it on WWE.com. As WWE has yet to announce any details regarding the broadcast of the annual special, they'll be sure to pass along the information as once they do, I will as well. Looking for reports from Fort Hood once it happens. The video link, this next video link here, it's about Liv Morgan returning to the Up Up Down Down YouTube channel. The Riot Squad member joins Xavier Woods to try out the horror video reality game, The Exorcist Legion. Go to that link. Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce celebrated a touchdown over the weekend by using the Stone Cold Stutter. And you can see it at this link. If you missed the celebration, watch the video. There's a second trailer for the upcoming Incredible documentary. Film documents former ECW World Heavyweight Champion PJ Polacco, formerly known as Just Incredible, as he tries to get his life back in order. And the new trailer here includes footage of Polacco's September lockup. Producers of the documentary bailed Pete out of a correctional facility in New Haven, Connecticut, which was captured on film. The production will continue to shoot through the winter, which will include new interviews with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. A January 5th show at Battlefront Pro Wrestling's To Hell and Back will feature a match between Just Incredible and Ryan Frost as the main event. The documentary crew will be chronicling the day leading up to the event and the match itself, including Just Incredible being featured in the music videos, shooting the same day by the band Crossing Rubicon. The band's music will be featured in the documentary. Production for the documentary was halted earlier this year, earlier in the fall, over an eruption from Polacco towards the director, Eric Nihanius. I hope I pronounced that right. Plans have been recalibrated to shoot the final months of the documentary based around Polacco's court proceedings. We continue to outline a man who has deep and painful layers unraveling all at once, and only one of them is about pro wrestling. Producer David Gear said at one point, I asked Pete to tell us who Just Incredible is and who Peter Polacco is. You will see the response in the new trailer, and it's heartbreaking, but it opens the door for redemption. In addition to being an accomplished Hollywood producer, Gear also moonlights as a professional wrestling manager named G.G. Haven. In promotions like Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore, first met Credible when paired with him on an indie show in 2015 at PWA's Rise of Injustice show. I worked at this show years back as Pete's manager, and it was the first time I had met him. Gear said, things were cool in the back at first, but by the end of the match against Bull Dread, Pete legitimately snapped over the finish, left the ring area, came back, broke a kendo stick over my head, busting me open, which we hadn't discussed, and walked out of the building. Despite all this, I felt for the guy. It was evident that he was in a very bad place emotionally. He had been a world champion, and a lot of my friends in the business, like Dreamer and Kevin Nash, had a long history with him. I wanted to help. Director Eric came up with the idea for the documentary, and I knew it would be a gripping and important journey for everyone, especially those who are dealing with similar issues. Last spring, Gear connected Polacco to a small cameo role in a prison yard fight seen in the 1970s era crime film Vault, that he executive produced, directed by Tom DiNucci. Polacco was being bars several months later. Executive producer Douglas Cartelli, a Connecticut and New York-based businessman, is seen in the documentary, taking various stance on Polacco's choices upon getting him released from jail. The day we got Pete, our very thought was very tough, Cartelli said. He was broken but motivated to take a forward step. This is a unique story. It's about fame and success. Then watching it all crumble. It's about family. It's about darkness. It's about the hope of making one move at a time to beat what has become Pete's worst opponent. And he also talks about doing cocaine before his entrance, why he felt emasculated in WWE, and his first pill. Producer Chelsea Vale handled Pete's wife, Jill Jarecki's involvement in the documentary also. Working on interviewing Jill was very hard, and I could see the anguish and pain pouring out of her, Vale said. This is evident in the trailer, and it is a very big part of the story. The despair cast on Pete's family is probably the most difficult aspect to observe. Despite the difficult time earlier this fall and the extreme lows he has faced, Polacco himself is motivated to have the world see and hear his story. I'm filled with anticipation for people to see this because it's a deep look into my life that's marked with many dark degrees of struggle from addiction and alcoholism, Polacco said, but it's also about what it means to survive as a professional wrestler at the age of 45, and about a man needing to take care of his family. WWE Hall of Famer Wendy Richter was a recent guest on Primetime with Sean Mooney. During an interview, she took a deep dive into her relationship with the fabulous Moolah, not being paid her fair share by WWE, working with Cyndi Lauper, and much more. And you can get the highlights from Stitcher.com at this link. And she comments on still being remembered by the fans. I just walked out of WWE because of how I was treated. I kept wrestling, but I wasn't on TV, and I thought people would forget me, but a lot of people didn't. To my surprise, not making money early on, it was horrible. There were times I made $50. I had to give Moolah 25% and then pay my gas and hotel. I did it for nothing. After I was already broken in, I would travel to the town I was going to wrestle, to the gym, have a meal, rest, and then go to the matches and then go back to my hotel room and get up and do the same thing the next day. I would go on the road for 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, and then come back and be off for maybe a couple weeks or a week and then go back on another run for a couple months. And she comments on how wrestling promoters and male wrestlers treated her. I was always treated with respect because I carried myself like a lady, like I am, and I was treated that way. So that all I can say, I was always treated with respect. There were a few times when a few of the wrestlers were a little out of line, and I put them right in their place. So it didn't happen again. It got around. Don't mess with her. And she comments on the pay disparity between men and women. That's the reason I only stayed with WWE a year and a half. Every time I saw Vince McMahon, I told him, I'm making less than the opening matches, and most of the time, I'm semi-main event. By the time I pay my rental car and my hotel, there's nothing left. I'm working to pay the hotel and rental cars. On why she feels like her falling out with the WWE was a blessing in disguise. The door closed with WWE, and I started going to college, and I just thank the Lord that I did that. Whenever I do any event now, whether it's a signing or whatever, I just thank the Lord. And I have an education, and I could go anywhere in the country and get a job and make far more than I ever did at wrestling. I make far more than I ever made in wrestling, and I get to sleep in my own bed. And I have 5 horses and dogs and cats. Didn't say how many she had. I couldn't have that when I was wrestling on the road. On teaming with Cyndi Lauper, she said, For me, the song "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" was my favorite song on the radio. And I just loved it. I got a call from WWE or WWF back then asking me if I represent Cyndi Lauper in a championship match against Moolah, and I said yes, I would. I'd love to. Dang right. That's how it happened. But it began before that for Cyndi. Her and Lou Albano were sitting next to each other, the first class on a flight from Puerto Rico to New York, and they got to talking. And then Lou starts throwing her name around like they're friends and like he's managing her when he only met her on the airplane. And they laugh. She had a #1 song in the nation, and her manager, Dave Wolf, would tell her that she's saying all these things, and he was her manager, not Lou Albano. And that went back and forth. It turns out they challenged each other in a match, but they couldn't wrestle each other, so they chose someone to represent them in a match, a title match. That's how it all started. And she comments on rock and wrestling going mainstream. Right after I won the championship, I went to visit my grandmother in Kokomo, Indiana. And I went out jogging. It was early. It was barely daylight. I was undercover and they knew me anyways. I couldn't believe it. That's when I realized, wow, I go to restaurants, not with other wrestlers, just by myself, and people recognize me. Her relationship with Fabulous Moolah. My relationship with Moolah was never good. She never helped get me to the main event. She used me kind of like Elvis Presley's manager. She got 25% of my pay, and there were times I didn't even know what I got paid. She would cut me a check, and so I had to stop that. Once I started wrestling, the promoters were asking me, and she didn't promote me. There were times that they tried to get me, and she told them I was booked and I wasn't. I think she was a very hateful person, and I've never been around anyone that was hateful and spoke coarsely. I mean, she was worse than a sailor. Never heard anyone cuss at her cuss combinations. And the way she talked about people, I've never been around that, and I wasn't around it very long because that's the opposite of what I want to surround myself with. I'm a positive. I look forward to things. I try to speak kind to people or don't say anything. But she hurt me anytime she could, and I realized that early on. She was an evil person, and I didn't never want to be around her. WWE contacted me a long time after that screw job, and wanted me to do a battle royal, and I said, it's Moolah. Is Moolah going to be in it? I wanted to get back at her. She was already dead and gone to hell, so I never got to wrestle her again. What she'd say to Moolah today, if she was still alive, I'd probably try to talk to her about the Lord, because she sure needed it. On her Hall of Fame induction and what it means to her, they had someone call me and ask me if I would like to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and I said, yes, I deserve it. It's about dang time. I didn't tell them that, but I said, I'll accept it. Why not? I have no hard feelings against them now. It was one of the highlights of my life, probably. I was very nervous, and I gave my speech. I'm not nervous to wrestle, but to speak like that and having to stand up by myself without having a commentator, I was pretty nervous, and I was hoping I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say because I was nervous. I was so glad it was a good feeling. I felt like it was justified, and had that not happened to me on November 25th, 1985, like it did, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. I'd probably been wrestling year after year after year, and who knows, I was spared from that and brought to another level. I got the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Cauliflower Alley Club and was inducted into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame there. It seems like another lifetime ago, to be honest with you, but I still love it. I do, but I love what I'm doing now too. I feel blessed, and I was able to go to college, and it gives me a really good feeling. Our current relationship with WWE, I don't dislike them. I can't say it's warm and fuzzy, but I don't dislike them. I'd work for them again. Whether she thinks current WWE superstars appreciate her, I think Natalya does show appreciation and make contact. Once, like right before I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, but that's the only one. I don't keep track of people. I figure if they want to talk to me, they'll call me. On the current crop of female wrestlers, female superstars, I'm happy for them. I hope they're getting paid a lot better than I did, because it's worthwhile. They've definitely come a long way. I wish they would wear more clothes, though. I feel like they don't have to expose themselves to get recognition. They can rely more on talent. I mean, you can still dress sexy, but children are watching. You don't have to look like a stripper in order to be a wrestler. That's the only thing. I wish they would dress a little more professionally. It's good they're becoming a big part of wrestling, and it deserves not to be a sideshow. There's women athletes in every sport. They should get the recognition. The full episode of Primetime with Sean Mooney featuring Wendy. Again, can we find that link that I posted earlier? Ring of Honor. I did that. I think I did like four times in this thing. Okay, on to the next news. NXT superstar Riddick Moss has made a full recovery following a torn Achilles heel. The injury was expected to take approximately 8 months to completely heal, but Moss has returned only after 5 months. In a tweet featured from Moss, as he also claimed it, faster than any athlete from any sport ever. Moss returned to the ring on Friday night at an NXT live event in Jacksonville, Florida, attacking Matt Riddle during a promo and then competing against him in a match later in the same night. Although Cassius Ohno would interfere from ringside and try to distract Riddle, Matt would use his submission to make Moss tap out and lose his return match. At Riddick Moss, I'd like to be the first to congratulate you on last night. What you've done is nothing short of extraordinary, returning from a ruptured Achilles tendon in 5 months. faster than any athlete from any sport ever. It's truly incredible. You're an inspiration. Rick Moss, hashtag Riddick Regimen. Moss signed with WWE in 2014, making his in-ring debut at a live event in December of the same year. He may be the best remembered for tag teaming with Chino Sabatelli, who went down with a torn pectoral muscle in May. Starting in October of 2016, their tag team split up prior to both men having to rehabilitate from their respective injuries. Being the Elite, episode number 128 can be found in this link, but here's your highlights. Christopher Daniels having two beers in a hotel room with the Young Bucks. He's still bothered by what Flip Gordon said to him about not actually being SCU. He's from Michigan. Bucks don't have much sympathy as they're actually from Southern California, and they call Daniels a transplant. Young Bucks then talk about how they took some time off to be with family, and then they mentioned that they'll be on the final NJPW World Tag League event, which is still ongoing. Marty Scurll is looking over his invite list of people he has to come to his New Year's Day party. He finally asks Gordon what he's doing on that day. Gordon says nothing is going on. Scurll can't believe it and invites him. Gordon is pumped and accepts the invite. Kenny Omega's looking at something and mumbling to himself about a good-looking salary. He gets a call from Scurll on the phone and says he has a bone to pick with Scurll about not sending him an invite for the party. Scurll says he knows how this is going to go, just like with Cody, Paige, and the Bucks. Omega says he has no plans on that day at this particular moment, and will come to it. Omega asks, who else is invited? Scurll says it's just him and Omega. Omega goes back to looking at his salary and says he thinks he wants that opportunity. And then Scurll tells Gordon his party is full and he actually can't come to it now. Gordon says okay and heads off. Adam Page on the phone talking to Triple H, supposedly about the notes he and some of the other guys have received. Page says he's loyal to Matt and Nick the most, so he'll have to say no for now until he hears more from them. Yujiro Tanahashi walks in and tells them to stop worrying about the other guys and worry about himself. He then looks over the list himself. Exclusive, Joe Koff says he does not see the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes in Ring of Honor next year. Randy Rhodes asks Cody, both in fur coats, how he's feeling since he had that bout of the money shakes. He seems to be okay now and offers up some of his wine to Brandy. She reaches for it and starts shaking, then runs off. Cody then hears the ticking clock and then checks his phone, which has the same countdown we've seen lately. Rhodes' hand starts shaking, and so does his dog, Pharaoh's paw. Sad music plays, and Daniels continues to drink and look super bummed about his situation. A drunk Daniels stumbles around as we see flashbacks to what Gordon said about him. Daniels falls down on his beer bottle and gets up with a chunk of broken glass that cut his neck. He falls back down again. Matt's putting items on the Christmas tree and drops an ornament. He picks it up, still favoring his back a bit. Papa Buck walks in and notices Matt's back is bothering him. He said he should get that checked out. Matt gets all defensive and says he's fine. He checks his phone and the countdown is just over a month. Suddenly, Nick is having another one of his premonitions. We see clips of All In, the guys looking at the countdown, a New Year's Eve ball dropping, a Cody having the money shakes, and Matt gets him to snap out of it, and Nick just smiles. And that ends that part of it. During Raw, that wasn't shown on TV, Rhino announced his retirement to the live crowd during commercial break after the match between him and Slater. Stay tuned for more updates, but my prediction is due to his mayorship coming up in January. So he's taking the holidays off to enjoy it with his family. And the spoilers for this week's main event. Tyler Breeze defeated Kurt Hawkins. B-Team and Zack Ryder defeated Mojo Rawley and The Ascension. Alright, Raw starts off this week with a 10-bell salute for George H.W. Bush. Ronda Rousey and Natalia versus Nia Jax and Tamina Snuka. Ronda Rousey kicked off the actual show this week. It came out with all smiles. Riot Squad came down and had a table with them. This caused the heels to jump Ronda and Natty before the bell. They assaulted the babyfaces and soon ganged up on Rousey, who took a shot into the steel ring steps. Riot Squad then ganged up on Natty and beat her down on the other side of the ring. Liv and Sarah set up a table and just smiled at each other as Rousey tried to crawl to them, but Nia and Tamina stopped her. Then Natty took a double powerbomb through the table at ringside. And thanks to Liv and Sarah, with a little bit of help from Nia. Yeah, the match isn't happening, so later on she'll be searching for a partner. Ronda Rousey will. Riot Squad just walked off while Natty rolled around in pain, sold the table bump as she barely hit the table as her neck and back was below the table whenever it hit. So they almost overshot it on the spot. Looks like Nia and Tamina just kind of stopped harassing Rousey after the table spot. Natalia and Rousey were shown backstage, and Natty was still selling her injuries. Ronda wanted some help, and then the medics went to look at her as Rousey just looked off camera, looking and walked off as angry as she could. Alexa Bliss is the new authority of the women's division. Alexa walked to the ring and as the head of the women's division and said she's going to work hard every week to give everyone the best women's division Raw has to offer. Then she wanted to do another open forum with Sasha and Bayley because the one last week apparently wasn't enough. She then invited Banks and Bayley to the ring. Alexa apologized for last week when they got jumped. She then asked for their first question from an obvious plant in the crowd, asking about the comments on social media where Sasha is using Bayley. Banks made some crack about stabbing Bayley in the back and called out Corey Graves for some reason. Then she said that Bayley and her are best friends for life. Kind of like NWO style. Another plant got to ask another question. If they have a match with any female superstar from any era, who would it be? Both Bayley and Sasha said Trish and Lita at Mania. They said not just who it was, they wanted it at WrestleMania. Another obvious plant asked what superpower they would have. I think they had 2 women and 1 man. The first one was a man. Bayley would make things disappear, and she would start with Alexa Bliss. That got the crowd chanting, yeah. They treated that like a huge burn in the ring, and Bayley ran around her chair celebrating, kind of like musical chairs around one chair. Banks didn't answer that one. She just agreed with her, and she didn't answer her question. I didn't think she did. Bliss said that she took Banks' title, but that's fine. As I watched it on DVD, or DVR, I should say, because I was watching other stuff. I have said in the past, I'm boycotting Raw because of Brock Lesnar, non-fighting champion. Bliss said that she took Banks' title, but that's fine. Another plant asked about the changes to Raw Women's Division in 2019, like it's Banks and Bayley's call. Then Bayley said that they wanted to be the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. They didn't get the pop it should have. And that basically ended the segment. But Alicia Fox, Dana Brooke, and Mickie James ran down. Bliss stopped them and set up a tag team match between Banks, Bayley, Fox, and James, which is up next. The heels took control as Mickie and Banks wrestled until Bayley ran to make a save. James sent Bayley out of the ring and Banks tried to roll her up for a 2 count. Then, after not much effort, Bailey got the tag and hit the Bailey's belly on James and got the pinfall. Banks and Bailey won the match. Alexa was strangely applauding the babyface ring from ringside. Ronda Rousey and got in Bliss's face backstage saying, "Riot Squad, cross the line." Bliss said she sent the squad home and will address them next week. Rousey said that she's going to get a hold of Tamina and Nia tonight. Bliss said she'll help find a tag team partner, and then Rousey said she'll find herself a tag team partner before leaving. Well, I already knew her tag team partner was going to be Ember Moon because they tagged at here at Bossier City at the live event. Constable Corbin was shown backstage, and up walks Gable and Rude. They want a match against AOP for the titles, and Rude wants a piece of Drake Maverick for peeing on his robe. Then Constable once said, if Rude wins a match against Drake Maverick, then they'll get another title match. But there's one condition. And that's what they were saying. Okay, what's the condition? Gable and AOP are banned from ringside. That sounds totally fair, supposedly. But I don't think that's going to happen. Stay tuned for more. Lucha House Party versus Revival was up next. Dash and Dawson came down, cut a promo on how the Luchas don't respect tag team wrestling because of their Lucha Rules deal, which they also had that here when they wrestled each other here. Then Dawson said he's going to teach them a lesson in a one-on-one match. But it was a tag match here, but the Lucha House Party did not bring their pinatas. JoJo said it's still under Lucha House rules, so it's 3-on-1. Actually, 3-on-2. This is an interesting gimmick for babyfaces to have, but the kids love it. There were a lot more flips than fists in this match as Dawson jobbed to the Lucha House Party as he took one move after another. Dawson then came back and started taking them out one by one. Lex Dorado ended up in the ring with him and took a bunch of damage with shoulder blocks and clotheslines. Dawson got Lance in the gory special, but Dorado flipped around and hit on his feet, and the Lucha took advantage as well. Corey brought up that Wilder should be allowed to come in as well if it's the Lucha House Party rules. But of course, I know that's not how it works. It's only them. Then they hit separate moves on Dawson and won the match. Backstage, the assistant gave Baron Corbin a box. He opened it, and it's perfect, he said. Then Baron chased off the intern, McIntyre. Appreciation Night is up next. And that's what he announced. More heel? Expected. Baron was already in the ring to soak up the booze when he plugged the fact that he is going to defeat Strowman by forfeit at TLC and becomes a full-time Raw GM. Then he praised himself a bit when people booed him, as expected. McIntyre was introduced to the ring and he shook his hand with Corbin, who thanked him for his hard work and support. You have proven to be on the right side of history, Baron said. Then he gave Drew an Olympic gold medal, supposedly. Baron said now that Drew has rid Raw of Kurt Angle, as Drew didn't have much of a, that's what you got me, kind of look. Baron said now that Drew has rid Raw of Kurt Angle, that he is rewarding him with a gold medal of excellence. Drew said he was simply doing what nobody else was strong enough to do. McIntyre then continued to praise himself, and he started running down Finn Balor. Suddenly, Dolph Ziggler's music comes out, and he comes to the ring and said that Drew had some memory problems. Ziggler didn't know what happened because they dominated Raw, yet he wasn't invited to Drew's little party. Drew then said that Dolph was never invited. He said Dolph didn't meet the height requirement because his nose is so stuck up somebody's butt. That's what that meant. Drew said he always has the brains, muscle, and talent, Then he continued to layer on the insults to Ziggler until the show-off had enough. Dolph started raining down punches on Drew and hit a zigzag before Baron Corbin could even blink his eyes. Well, as Dolph was leaving the ring, he got halfway up the ramp. Baron Corbin booked him in a match between the two, and it starts now. The two former partners could have feuded for a while, but why not have a match on Raw on the night that they split up? Drew had control for a bit, but Dolph fought back after hitting a body drop and dragging Ziggler outside the ring and hammering him against a barricade. He picked up a microphone and said he's been going easy on Ziggler. So he's going to pretend it's Finn Balor instead. This caused McIntyre to be even more rough with the show-off. Ziggler sold everything like crazy and really put Drew over. Finally, Finn walked out, and Drew was a bit distracted as he only stood on the stage. But the match carried on. Balor stood at ringside now as Dolph and Drew fought on. McIntyre hit an Alabama slam, so the announcer said again, which was not the Alabama slam. It was a face buster for a 2 count as McIntyre had him on his head and slammed him face first. And McIntyre and Balor kept trading glances. Drew placed Dolph on the top rope and smacked his chest before climbing down to gloat and climbs back up. Dolph fought back with some punches and knocked Drew down, and then Dolph hits a DDT for a near fall. Drew ended up on the outside, and Dolph hit kind of a dive on him in a way, but he pummeled through Drew with punches anyways. McIntyre fired back with a stiff punch of his own and took control of the match. Again, as he crushed Ziggler on the barricade, as he was nice enough to tell the crowd to move out of the way. Some of them still stood there, and they finally moved as the Dolph was coming down. And then rolled Dolph into an official for a moment, allowing Finn Balor to nail a shotgun drop kick on Drew, which bounced him off the barricade. And then Dolph hit a super kick when Drew came back in the ring and got the pinfall. This was the first time, as Michael Cole said, that McIntyre has been pinned or submitted since coming back to WWE, which is totally true. Charlie Caruso caught up with McIntyre backstage, and he wasn't happy. He said that Dolph was just enough an asset and a means to an end. Well, guess what? That is not entirely true, because he lost here in Motor City at the event. Dolph used him to get to Charlie caught up with McIntyre backstage, and he wasn't happy. He said that Dolph was just an asset and a means to an end. Dolph used him to get to the top of the mountain, but McIntyre is the mountain, and Balor is a marked man. Well, guess what? If you're at the top of the mountain, well, guess what? Everybody aims for the top of the mountain. You reign champion. So guess what? You're not at the top of the mountain. And who is? Brock Lesnar. There you go. It's time for Elias. Elias is in the middle of the ring, and he says he wants to wrap one of his guitars around Bobby Lashley's head. He said he's felt the fear Lashley carries around him, but at TLC, there will be no more hiding, because Lashley will find out what this t-shirt says. What does WWE stand for? And he asked him again, even louder. Leo Rush and Lashley show up on the stage, and Rush hypes his man, Bobby Lashley. Again. Finally, when Elias had seen enough posing and heard enough of, he ran down after them with his guitar, but Lashley jumped him first on the rampway and beat him down a bit. Elias turned it around, and Lashley turned around on Lashley and drove him into the big LED board on the stage. And then Leo Rush took off. Elias chased Bobby away, and he stood there for a bit before Leo Rush showed up again. Thanks to Finn Balor tossing Rush on the stage, Elias broke his guitar over Leo's back. It looks like the baby faces are getting a little bit more over this week. Constantine Corbin and Jinder Mahal Backstage, and Mahal asked for a match against Finn Balor later on. Then Slater and Rhino walked in, and Corbin said that there was only room on Raw for one of them. He encouraged one of them to quit. Slater said he has kids, and Rhino says he's worked hard for everything, and he can't quit. Constipated once said, and then booked him in a match between the two for later. And the loser is fired. Bobby Roode versus Drake Maverick. As it's supposed to be banned from ringside. Maverick didn't look too happy about facing Roode. This is Maverick's first actual match in WWE, if memory serves. But not just in WWE. He has wrestled in TNA Wrestling, Rockstar Spud. Drake tried to jump Roode, but it didn't work out too well for them. Suddenly, they showed AOP beating down Gable backstage on the big screen. Then Baron ran in and said he changed his mind, and it's now a 3-on-2 handicap match. So AOP ran to the ring, and it was on. Roode tried to pin Drake before AOP got in the ring, as he got a 2 count. They just got there in time to break up the pin after a glorious EDT. Roode took some abuse from AOP, and then Chad Gable came down for a fight. He fought off both members, limping down to the ring. But the size and the numbers game quickly helped AOP regain control. They hit the super collider, and Maverick asked for the pin, the tag for the pin, and he got the pinfall on Bobby Roode. Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins segment. A siren blared, and then the SWAT team came out wearing gas masks. Then Ambrose walked out with a siren playing over his music while he was wearing a gas mask as well. Is this a gimmick they're keeping? Stay tuned. Ambrose said he has to take these measures to protect him from a slum like Houston, Texas, and he needs them to protect himself from Rollins too. He then took off the gas mask, and he was attacked by Rollins. He looked at him like, what's that smell? Unprovoked, as he said, unprovoked. Ambrose said that Rollins has a weak character because he placates to the fans and makes them feel important. Ambrose started explaining what he was going to do to Seth at TLC, and that Seth is going to lose control of himself, his emotions, the situation, and the IC title. Well, just like here in Boulder City, a lot of fans were calling him a sellout, and Ambrose said he's not a sellout. Ambrose also said the IC title will fall safely into his hands, and then Seth's music hit, and he comes through the crowd out of nowhere. I didn't see him come until he hit the ring and took Ambrose out of the ring with a clothesline over the top. Seth took out some SWAT team members, and he then power bombed one of them on the rest of them outside of about 3 of them. More came from backstage, and they got a piece of the action too. Dean took off through the crowd as Seth chased him. They brawled to the crowd until Ambrose made it back to ringside. Took a gas mask and smashed Rollins with it from one of the SWAT team members. As you see, the one right there beside the steel steps. As he smashed Rollins with it, as Seth went for a springboard dive off the barricade, Ambrose hammered down on Seth, and he got the "You suck" chant from the crowd going, and then nailed Dirty Deeds on the outside. I have integrity, Ambrose kept saying, as he directed the SWAT team members to roll Rollins back into the ring. Ambrose hit another Dirty Deeds on Rollins before posing over him as the audience chanted, "One more time." Then they played Ambrose's music hit again, and the sirens go over again. Maybe they're keeping it that way, but we can only hope that they lose that audio edition soon. Corey Graves tried pressing Renee Young for answers, and she snapped at him, saying it's nobody's business to know what happens between closed doors, between husband and wife. How dare you? That was awkward. Ronda Rousey picks a partner. Charlotte Caruso revealed that Ember Moon will be Rousey's partner, and Nia Jax said she wanted to fight Caruso. Then she screamed into the microphone about how she wants her Raw Women's title back. Heath Slater versus Rhino. Loser of the match is fired. Rhino tossed Slater around a bit as he basically was turning on Slater, and it looked like it could have been a squash match. And Slater suddenly hit a move and won the match. So, and as a surprise, Rhino just looked up as they cut the camera off of him. So he's sustained, and Rhino is apparently fired. Both members of the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Championship team looked shocked when it was all said and done. This match got hardly any time at all, maybe like a minute. So Heath Slater won the match. Baron Corbin applauded Slater backstage, and Heath asked if there was anything he could do for Rhino. Then Baron gave Heath Slater a referee shirt and told him that he could have a successful career as a referee. I didn't keep you on as a wrestler. Next match, you got Finn Balor versus Jinder Mahal. Mahal took advantage early on and dropped Finn's throat over the ropes, giving him a chance to sell it on the outside. Soon Balor fired up and mounted a comeback, hit Sling Blade, shotgun drop kick, even though Mahal was standing way too close to the turnbuckle for it to work right. But when Finn went to the top rope, the Singh brothers knocked Balor down and danced on the outside. Apollo Crews came down to even up the odds and took out the Singhs. Mahal hit a kick on Crews, and then Balor tossed Jinder back in the ring for the shotgun drop kick and a coup de grace for the win. As they were also in action here in Bossier City area. Balor was in the Singh backstage, and Charlie Caruso interviewed him. Drew McIntyre jumped him, and they had to pull him off of Balor. Drew came back to punish Finn some more, and they finally pulled McIntyre off and sent him on his way while Finn laid on the floor selling the attack. Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon versus Nia Jax and Tamina. Look at your main event. The Hills attacked Ronda as Ember was making her entrance. Then the babyfaces sent Nia and Tamina out of the ring. The bell didn't even ring as Ronda and Ember took the punishment to the Hills on the outside. Then they got back in the ring as Michael Cole talked about how fired up the babyfaces were. When they finally got the match going, Ember was taking punishment from Nia, and then Tamina got in the ring. They only had about 7 minutes until the end of the show when they went back to the match. Rousey took the tag and applied some strikes, only to tag Ember right back in. Tamina hit a move, kept Ember from tagging back in. Moon hit a flipping splash in the corner. Nia distracted Moon, and Tamina clutched her across the back and set her down. Moon then took more damage in the corner until Nia took control of Ember on her own. Nia ragdolled Ember a bit until she started to fight back. Ember almost got to the corner as Nia blasted Ronda off the apron with a cheap shot. The Hills regained control over Moon. Tamina botched the move badly, but it might have been Moon's fault too. Either way, Rousey got the tag with 3 minutes to go, and it was certainly a hot tag. Rousey hit Tamina with clotheslines and then some knees. Ronda told Tamina to tag in Nia, as she did, but Jax didn't seem too eager to get involved with Rousey. In fact, Nia just turned around and tagged back in Tamina. Ronda then brought Jax back in to the ring anyways, and then Tamina tried to hit a cheap shot. Rousey got a close 2 count, but Nia broke the pinfall. Moon fought Nia off, and then she hit the Eclipse on Tamina before Rousey locked in the armbar for the win. I didn't get any dark match results from Brawl, but if I get it for the SmackDown video, I'll post it on there. Thanks again. Peace out. See you, want to be. If you don't know, just call me, brother.